was your faith background?
I was NFL, National Football League. We didn't really go to church.
And what was your local denomination?
Oh, yeah. No, I grew up in Colorado, so we rooted for the Broncos.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God. We see his hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome to episode 95 here at Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. A few days back, I was sending out a video to someone. That's how we welcome people to Patreon, those who support us financially. And I was sending out a new welcome to Nathan Nelson. And he fired back an email saying, thanks, and I've got a story for you. And it involves 6 words. 6 words spoken to me by God that saved 2 lives. 3 words that saved the life of a total stranger, and 3 words that saved my life. And I'm going, whoa, well, let's do this. You know, this is 6 words. What's 6 words? You know, and I'm thinking, okay, what are the 3 words? 3 different. And I'm trying to figure this out. You know, what? I can figure this out, can I?
Yeah, no, I'll guarantee you can't guess at 6 words. I will guarantee you there's no way you can.
He was right. I wasn't even close in my guesses. But the 2 stories, the 2 lives saved, are connected to our headline here. His morning light. His morning light. Something so simple as morning light. Something so simple as a sunrise.
There's no prayer greater than seeing the sun come up, right? Seeing and hearing the world wake up. And to me, that's God's prayer, right?
Nathan Nelson coming up here on Touched by Heaven. This week, I keep bumping into love. What the heck does that mean? Well, last week's episode, as I listened to it again, I think we're bumping into faith, living your faith of faith in God, what we're supposed to do. The episode is called Heaven's Scoreboard. Kobe Bryant, a huge international figure, if you will, in basketball, and comparing him to a biblical figure, King David. Both of them made huge mistakes in their lives and admitted their sins, said they were sorry, picked themselves up and moved on. They lived their faith. They really did live their faith, and how God views that and how he loves that. He loves a repentant sinner. And it was really about living your faith. You know, we're bumping into faith, and we know that faith will get you to heaven and all that, right? So this week, I'm bumping into love. I'm bumping into people who demonstrate what St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13. That's where Paul says something so astounding when you just look at it. You know, he says, you could work for the state highway department. He says, don't you have the Revised Edition? He says, that's what he says. You can work for the state highway department and have so much faith that you don't need a bulldozer. You don't. Your faith can move mountains. It says that, okay? It says you can have so much faith that it moves mountains, that your prayers are so powerful because you're so connected to God, so surrendered, so trusting in God, in whatever thy will be done, so much off the charts. Your faith can be so off the charts that your prayers move mountains, move dirt. But if you don't have love, you got nothing. It's an exaggeration because if you have that kind of faith in God, you're just naturally, the love is going to be a part of that. But he's making the point that no matter how great your faith is, love is more important. Love is greater than faith. That's, in fact, to the point where it's right there next to it. He says, you can give away everything. You can give everything away to the poor. Everything you have, just give it to the poor right now. But if you don't have love, you got nothing. Again, an exaggeration, because if you have that kind of faith, you're going to have love, and it's, you know. But he's making the point of how important love is, greater than faith. Will love get you to heaven just like faith? Of course it will. Of course it will. Now, look at what Jesus says. You got St. Paul. He's in the highway department. You got Jesus running livestock here. He's Matthew 25. He says something astounding. He's got sheep and goats going here. And the sheep are going to heaven, and the goats are going to hell. And, you know, apparently if you go to hell, you're going to see herds of goats, because he says, how do you get to heaven? Well, when I was thirsty, did you give me something to drink? When I was hungry, did you give me something to eat? Clothe me when I was naked? Visit me when I was in prison? You do that? Heaven. You don't? You know, he's incorporating the whole do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He's incorporating love one another as I have loved you. It seems to be the final exam. What did you do for people around you? Right? Did you love the people around you? Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, amazing. And there's something, back to Matthew 25 again, something Jesus said that she lived by. Jesus, right after all the sheep and the goats and the livestock thing, he says, whatever you do to the least of these, meaning the least of, people who have the least, whatever you do to the least of these, you do it to me. And she would live by the you do it to me. In fact, she did this to, she would grab people's hands and she turned it into a gospel. She did this to a pope, John Paul II. She grabbed one of his hands and she did her own version of this little piggy went to market. Here's what she did. She would take the thumb and then go down the finger, each finger. And each finger had a word to it. You did it to me. As a reminder, how are you treating people? How are you treating the poor? How are you treating people in your families? How are you treating people in your lives? You did it to me. It's a great self-examination at the end of a day of how we did with the people around us. Because no matter what we did it to Jesus too. You did it to me. Jesus was always being asked, how do you get to heaven? And he talked about the narrow path, the narrow gate, and that this wide open gate over here, this wide open path was the road to perdition. That's the world. That's the road to perdition. That's the road to hell. But then there's this narrow path, this narrow gate, the turnstile. You got to go through the turnstile. What's the turnstile? Love. The turnstile is love. So this week, God seems to be having me bump into people who demonstrate the love more than the faith. Do they have faith? Absolutely. Absolutely they have faith. But they live it. They live it to the point where love outshines the faith. And a couple of examples here. I have a friend. I'll call him Joe. And Joe's just a great guy. And he's not the guy I'm going to sit down and let's talk about God for a couple hours. He's going to look at me like, what? He just lives it. He's a very successful guy. He's a guy with stuff. He's got toys, but the toys don't run him. And when I see him around other people, he's the guy that's going around, hey, do you need more of this? Do you have this? Do you do this? This week, he helped my son in his career, and it's something my son can never repay. There's nothing my son can do for this man. He just did it because that's who he is. He lives it, St. Paul talked about what's written on the tablets of our hearts, and it's on the tablets of his heart. This is how he lives his life. He doesn't talk faith, he lives it. He loves. That's what he does. Or let's go to Nathan in this episode. Nathan is a guy who, again, has faith. How he loves his fellow man to the point of depleting his resources, of giving it away. He gives it away with his time, his money, his treasures of this earth, because it's written on the tablets of his heart too. Love, which is greater than faith, which will get you to heaven. You bet it will. Nathan is a guy who, where I might go, yeah, there's a sunrise. There'll be another one tomorrow. He'll go, no. See God in that. See God in creation, in the beginning. And it was good. Well, it still is. Take a look at that sunrise. Feel those sun's rays. Listen to what's going on during a sunrise. He's a guy that will want you to capture God in this daily life through something so simple as a sunrise.
I like your show because it's spiritual, but it applies to what's happening today. I struggle a lot listening to, the same sermons going over and talking about, I like to hear the scriptures, but sometimes I think it's difficult for a lot of preachers and pastors to actually, try to relate that back to what's actually happening now. And I think you do a really good job of relating it.
Nathan's a hunter, and he grew up in a lot of different faiths. Mom kind of took him through different faiths, and then later he got married to a Catholic, became Catholic. But you can't put Nathan into a box and just say that's what he is, because that's not the way Nathan runs. And he was online one day, and he sees a 9-month-old post. 9 months old. It's a guy just out of the service. He's having a tough time. Probably some PTSD going on there, just having a tough time. And this ex-serviceman wants someone to take him hunting. He just wants to go hunting. Well,
like I said, I don't even know how I got to it. So it popped up, and I was reading it. And the first time God ever spoke to me, and he basically said 3 words. He said, "Take him hunting."
How do you mean that? You heard?
I
Was it a
heard it.
nudge, or you actually heard audible?
No, well, so it was in my mind. I don't know if it was audible. I mean, I heard it. So I heard a voice say, take him hunting. Just like that. And it wasn't like I was shocked. I wasn't afraid. It was just, somebody said, "Hey, take him hunting."
And it wasn't a case of, sometimes we'll see something and go, we do the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, where I should do that. It wasn't a I should do that. It was do that.
Yep. Yeah, it was, hey, it was pretty much just like, whenever your mom or your dad or somebody tells you to do something, they put a little bit of oomph in their voice, and it was take him hunting. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a question. It was more of a, this is a chore.
So Nathan reaches out to this ex-serviceman who made this post online 9 months before. If you still want to go and go black buck hunting, it's an antelope. And he says, I'll help you. We'll go out. We'll get it done.
In Texas, you set in blinds, right? So it's not walking around and hiking. It gives you a lot of time to reflect and to watch nature. And I mean, there's nothing better than watching the sun come up and basically hearing the world, come alive. Black buck is a type of antelope, spiral horns that go up anywhere from 16 to 20 inches. And it's a real majestic looking animal.
The soldier had his antelope by 10:30 that morning.
We went back, took care of everything, took him to lunch, shook his hand, told him, thank you for his service.
Nathan likes the experience, to be able to help an ex-serviceman just go hunting. And Nathan had just sold his business recently, so he would use that money to do that. So he thought, maybe I'll just keep doing this. And word gets around, and other ex-servicemen contact him, and Nathan picks up the tab, and he's able to go out there in nature with these guys, let them talk, let them be, let them experience the morning light, that beautiful morning light of the world, coming to life in the morning.
I had lots of people contact me. Hey, we saw what you did. Looked like a good time.
These guys would hunt turkeys or antelope, pigs, whatever was out there.
I guess the thing that really got me is it was in August of that same year. The first guy that I took hunting called me up, and he said, "Hey, I just want to know, I've been following you on this particular hunting forum, and I think it's pretty cool what you did." And I'm like, "Yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed taking you out. It's a good thing to do. I feel good about doing things." And he goes, "Hey, I just want you to know that I don't know how you found me or how you contacted me, but the day that you reached out to me, I had actually bought some alcohol, and my plan was to drink the alcohol and sit in my garage and leave the car on, and I was just going to be done with everything." And I'm like, what are you telling me?" He goes, "I'm telling you that the night that you sent me the private message that, you wanted to take me hunting and you were going to set things up for me, I was going to kill myself." And he said, "And you gave me hope." And then he said, "It still wasn't good. I was still thinking, I actually, took my gun and I bought shells and everything else." And he told me, he goes, if the hunt with you didn't work out, I was going to shoot myself before I went home." And he goes, "But, you sat there and you listened to me. We got an animal. I got food for my wife and kids. You gave me hope. I'm doing a lot better now. And it just gives me more hope to watch you take other guys hunting." And I thought, wow, I hadn't really thought about that,
And you answered something that was 9 months old.
That's right. It was really old, stale, the whole 9 yards.
All this from hearing the voice. Take him hunting.
And then I took that and I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do it. I actually started my own charity, took a bunch of guys hunting. I mean, by the time I kind of got done doing that, it's over 600 guys.
Over 600 men over a course of 9 years went hunting because of Nathan. And Nathan picked up the tab for all of it. In fact, every bit of money he had made from selling his company went into taking these guys hunting.
Soldiers, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, policemen, firefighters, EMS drivers. I focused on those guys, and I basically took them hunting. And my deal was we said that we were taking them hunting just to say thank you, and it was all kinds of different hunting: deer hunting, hog hunting, ducks, geese, cranes. I've had at least 20 different guys tell me that hey, going hunting with you helped me a whole lot. Everything from I was going to hurt myself to just put me back on track to faith in people, things like that. And it's really meaningful. It's really important.
And on the day that first hunter had called to say, you saved my life. I see what you're doing for others. You saved my life. On that very same day, Nathan heard that voice again with 3 more words.
With my truck loaded up, had a whole bunch of corn in the back of it. I was going to go fill the feeders. And I was wearing shorts and sandals in Texas in August. It's just hot. There's no other way to put it. And God talked to me again, and he said, put on your boots, or get your boots. Actually, he said, get your boots. Same thing, sitting at a stoplight. Yep. And it's a pretty distinct voice. It's a male's voice. It's it's a fairly kind of gruff voice, I guess. Just waiting to turn, right? So I turned around. If he told me to do it once, I'm going to do it again. So I went back home and I put on my snake boots. And went back out and was filling feeders. So I was walking around in my snake boots and shorts. I looked kind of like a goofball, but you have to listen when you're talked to, I guess, is the important thing. I got struck 6 times at 3 different feeders by snakes that day.
When you say snake boots, you mean snake boots.
Yeah. They're to protect you from getting bit by a snake. And I've never been struck. I've never even had snakes mess with me. And I've been doing this for a long time. Let's put it this way. If you get bit by a rattlesnake wearing sandals, and you're kind of out there doing it by yourself, something bad's going to happen. Let's just put it that way.
Wow.
But on that particular day, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was just the weather. I don't know if it was just that time of year. But from underneath the feeders, so I have feeders that sit on the ground, there were snakes that were basically underneath my feeder, and they didn't rattle, they didn't do anything, they just hit me. Just bam.
What kind of snakes?
Yeah. They were all rattlesnakes.
And they were quiet. There was no warning.
There was no warning, no nothing, no rattling. They just were hitting me. So if I wouldn't have had my snake boots on, basically I would have been bit by rattlesnakes. So that's kind of like I said, the 6 words.
6 words save 2 lives. 3 words save a complete stranger. 3 words save Nathan, who has helped over 600 men over the course of 9 years, sitting there in the blind, listening.
Well, and you think that's the big part of it, but there's a lot of healing that happens in hearing the world wake up. And I don't think most people realize that, right? So whenever you're out there hunting, you're starting before the sun comes up. So you start at the darkest point, right? It's always darkest before the dawn. You've heard that term a lot. And that's true. I mean, it's the darkest point. It's the coldest point. But there's something amazing with every sunrise. So when the sun comes up, just before the sun comes up, the birds start making noise. You can hear the bugs. You can hear, the deer and the turkeys, and everything basically comes to life. And I think it was very specific that I took guys hunting, not because I was there to listen. I think that's important, but I think it was there to show them that the world comes alive every day, and it's a miracle to see it happen. And that's why you need to fight for that next day, is because that's something that most people never get to see or never think about seeing. And when you take somebody out there and it's just you and them and they get to see that, it lifts their hearts, it lifts their spirits. And it's something that that you get because you see the beauty of everything that's around you. And I think that's probably the greater part of it. I think listening's important. I think the friendships and the bonds and the beer you drink while looking at campfires and all that stuff is important. Putting them out there and watching the sun rise and hearing the world come alive and realize that you're still alive, you're still part of the world. It just makes you, it just makes you feel alive. It makes you feel connected.
Yeah, we're kind of, ironically, kind of oblivious to that first morning light, aren't we? Most of us.
Yep.
It's going on, and we're just going about our days. And tell me about the first light in the morning, what it does for you.
There's no prayer greater than seeing the sun come up, right? You can pick any prayer that you want to, but nothing that can be said can replace, seeing and hearing the world wake up. And to me, that's God's prayer, right? So whatever man's written down to try to inspire you, whatever words that you need to hear that were written cannot replace just being there and feeling the cold go away, knowing that, what was dark is now lit, what was asleep is now awake. And it's, it doesn't matter what scripture you read. There's nothing more powerful than actually experiencing it and seeing it and feeling it. And that to me, that's what, First Light is all about. It's everything wrapped into one. It's the world exploding with life. The world wakes up, and it's not just you. It's about everything around you. And it's a really amazing, special thing to see. So
that's beautiful. That's poetic.
It kind of really struck me that what needs to happen and what Jesus's real message was, you got to be a fisher of men. You got to go save men. And that doesn't mean sitting in if you need to sit in a church and listen to a message, then that's what you need to do. But there's a lot of people out there that need to be told the message, not in a church. And so I struggle with organized religion because I look at organized religion in a lot of sense right now that it's more of a business than it is really a religion. A lot of money goes into building, monumental epitaphs to, preachers and, men of God to build them a house so they can spread the word of God. And I don't think they do it as well as a simple sunrise. So I struggle with organized religion just because I'm hard-headed and I've done too much research and spent too much time trying to figure out what it really meant. And I've been able to boil it down into a real simple, know the 10 Commandments and know what a sunrise is.
I think that does feed part of our needs. I think when we look out at the beauty that is on this earth, and we all agree, what's interesting is that there is nobody who's ever said, what an ugly sunrise. You know what I mean? We all agree that that's beautiful. We all know somehow inside that's from God. Somehow that
right.
little gene in us, whatever you want to call it, that little God gene, that we all recognize that. We all connect with each other. That's from a creation. That's from our Creator. The part of a church, we are called, and the early church called, we've also had this understanding that we are to gather. There is something about everybody gathering and praising God and praying and hearing a good word and all that kind of stuff. We also recognize those people who are scam artists. We recognize those people who are more about building their own mansion than getting one in heaven. But I do believe that we are to gather, and I do believe that, the definition of theology is faith seeking understanding. And something else you said struck me is that no matter where you find God, and the fact of the matter is he was there waiting for us because he seeks us first. He seeks us first, and he will meet us wherever we are, but He loves us too much to leave us there. So if God begins with a sunrise, if God begins with the sunrise is a prayer, he won't leave you there. If that's not the end of prayer. That's not the end of understanding who God is and his love for us. That's your beginning point. He'll meet you wherever you are, but he loves you too much to leave you there. And I think that's and I think that's true with you too, Nathan. As I listen to you, your perception of who God is and the depth of the love that you know comes from him and works through you and the charity that you've done, I would say your faith has developed over the years.
Oh, no, that's exactly right. I definitely agree with that.
I was telling Nathan about some upcoming plans I have about doing a weekly gathering of men early in the morning in which we share these kinds of stories of what Christ is doing now as a way of inspiring and fortifying and sharing these kinds of stories and just kind of getting us ready for a day that has Christ in it, that he's not a 2,000-year-old historical figure, but he's still healing and, still offering divine intervention, everything we talk about here at Touched by Heaven, and a lot more. But anyway, I was telling him that I had plans to put something together, and he had some advice for me.
The most important thing, if you're going to do it, is, and this is one of those things that you can't undersell the importance of it, right? If you're going to start it, you need the sunrise to be the end, not the beginning, right? I can tell you that's incredibly important, because you need people awake, focused, determined. And if you start at the beginning of sunrise, you don't get that, right? So you have to you have to start it when it's quiet. You have to start it when it's dark. You have to, because in order to actually get the full effect, you need to see it at the end, not at the beginning.
So they may arrive when it's dark, when it's darkest and coldest, but when they're leaving, they're going into that light. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that's important, right? I mean, that's literally, I think, the message that I was, given the opportunity to really give is, you don't deliver somebody into the darkness. You deliver somebody into the light. But in order to deliver somebody into the light, they have to know what the darkness and the cold is. So they understand the gift that's given to them by that deliverance.
You're good, buddy. I've really enjoyed this.
I mean, what I like about your episodes is you're not preachy. I mean, you literally talk about things that happen to everyday people. You put it in a way that touches, people. These are real stories. These are how, people are touched by it. Sometimes it's in salvation, sometimes it's in grief, sometimes it's in, joy. But I mean, for me, you're the church that I listen to whenever I want to hear scripture and actually, think about things deeper, because that really touches me. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing, and you're where I'm doing my tithing right now. So.
Well, our Patreon supporter, and our shout out to Nathan Nelson this week on Touched by Heaven. Our takeaway is Nathan's he's a turnstile guy. He has faith, absolutely. He has faith, absolutely. But I just think what registers on the heaven scoreboard is the love. Over 600 guys over the course of 9 years. Untold tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever all that adds up to, whatever it was that was left from the company that he sold, that he was able to do this for the guys because he knew it would benefit them. And God saved him. He saved him with the rattlesnake bites to do that kind of work. And he saved the first person who was thinking of doing himself in. He saved him through Nathan and the love that's in Nathan's heart. It's a great turnstile, narrow path, narrow gate, and all that story about how love is greater than faith. Thank you so much again, Nathan. If you want to help us out through Patreon, please go to patreon.com and just search for Trapper Jack, or go to episode 95 right here at touchedbyheaven.net. And I will see you next week, provided you give me a story. Do you have one? What are you sitting on? What encounter story do you have? Please share it at touchedbyheaven.net. See you next week. I'm Trapper Jack, and this is Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God.